You don't belong here, you high school dropout.
Tom sneered at me while he said that. I was amazed at how confident he was about his education.
This place is quite expensive. You need to be more aware.
As soon as he said that, Tom suddenly started laughing. The other customers were looking at him, wondering what was going on. My daughter and I were also wondering what had happened.
Oh, I see. You couldn't calculate the price because you're a high school dropout?
He started laughing even harder. Even though there were other customers in the restaurant, Tom didn't seem to care at all. I thought I was used to Tom's usual behavior, but this time, I was angry because it felt like he had ruined the spot my daughter had reserved for us. I vowed to myself that it was time to teach him a lesson. My name is John, and I'm 57 years old. Now, for various reasons, I've returned to this small town factory and am working here again. I usually work at a different company, far removed from factory work. At 57, this factory job is tough on my body, especially since I'm not used to it. I started working here right after I graduated from high school. When I was in the second year of high school, my father, who was the president of this factory, passed away. Without time to mourn my father's death, my mother took over the factory he left behind. To help my mother, I decided to work at the factory after graduating high school. My mother and I worked tirelessly from early morning until late at night. Despite our efforts, the factory's business continued to decline. Just when it seemed we were on the brink of bankruptcy, a major corporation that was one of our clients extended a helping hand. The president of that corporation was a close friend of my father's. Thanks to them, we were able to overcome the crisis of our factory's financial troubles. It was during this time that I met my wife. She was the daughter of that corporation's president and was already playing a key role in the company at a young age. She was incredibly intelligent and skilled in business management. I hesitated at first because our worlds were so different, but I fell in love with her at first sight and decided to go for it. To my surprise, she accepted my proposal without hesitation. I was over the moon, and every day was filled with happiness. It didn't take long for her father, Kyle, to like me, and we soon got married. After our marriage, Kyle and my wife convinced me to join their company. Kyle promised to take responsibility for the management of the factory I inherited from my father. With such an offer from Kyle, I had no reason to refuse, and I transferred to their company as they suggested. Shortly after that, our daughter Amy was born. Everything was going perfectly, and I was incredibly happy. However, that happiness didn't last long. One day, my wife passed away in an accident. My world went dark, and I even lost the will to live. But I realized I still had the daughter my wife left behind. I vowed at my wife's grave to raise our daughter well. Our daughter seemed to have inherited her mother's intelligence. With Kyle's support, she studied abroad and graduated at the top of her class from graduate school. After returning, she joined the company where Kyle and I worked. Now, she's helping me with my work. The mornings at the factory start early, and I woke up early to head to the factory. Back when I used to work here, I must have been much younger. Dragging my tired body from yesterday, I entered the factory. After holding the morning assembly with the employees, I got to work. At this factory, my job involves operating and adjusting the machines, and I work with them daily. There are various types of machines in the factory, and I'm familiar with each one's functions and characteristics, allowing me to operate any of them. I constantly monitor the machine's operational status and quickly respond to any issues, minimizing production line stops and troubles. I always think about how I can improve production efficiency by adjusting the machines and reviewing processes to reduce waste. It was during such a moment. Suddenly, I received an order to stop the machines. Wondering what was going on, I returned to the office and found a representative from a client company there. This representative had taken over as our factory's contact person 6 months ago. His name is Tom.
Follow my instructions,
Tom said, and then began to brag about his background at length. He graduated from an elite university and boasted about his high academic qualifications and abilities. I was stunned. Tom must have noticed my reaction. He asked me for my name.
John, which university did you graduate from?
It wasn't something to talk in front of other employees, but I answered honestly. I didn't go to college. Tom burst out laughing loudly. After laughing alone for a while, he asked further.
I see. So you graduated from high school?
Suppressing my irritation, I told Tom that I was a high school graduate. He was surprised and laughed even harder.
A high school graduate? You've got to be kidding.
Tom's reaction was quite exaggerated. While he was laughing uncontrollably, the gathered employees looked down silently.
This is unbelievable. Someone with such low education exists here.
Stopping the production line for this was infuriating. I asked Tom how this was related to our work. Tom approached me with an intimidating attitude.
A high school graduate. Do you want your order quantity reduced?
Tom threatened to reduce our orders. Using his position as our client's representative, it became clear that Tom was using threats to make the employees here comply with his demands. Since then, Tom has kept a close eye on me. I have to endure Tom's harassment to carry out my duties. Thinking that Tom might come to the factory today depresses me. Whenever Tom comes to the factory, he always visits me first. Tom never likes it when I'm working. Tom tells me to stop working and makes me listen to his endless bragging.
John, you may not be able to be like me, but if you try hard, you might get close, you know?
I feel incredibly looked down upon by Tom, and it's unbearable how he makes me stop working every time he comes.
Maybe it's impossible for a high school graduate. I bet you'll be working in this factory forever.
I thought, what's wrong with factory work? But saying it out loud would only make Tom stay longer. The longer Tom stays, the longer the production line remains stopped. I decided to just listen quietly to what he had to say while he was there. If I could just humor him and get him to leave quickly, it wouldn't be a problem. However, Tom's bragging about how great he is didn't stop. If I didn't get the production line moving soon, we wouldn't finish today's orders on time. I looked at the clock, feeling anxious. Seeing my distress, one of the other employees started operating the machine in my place. Just as I felt a sense of relief, it was short-lived.
Hold on, who told you to start it up?
Tom began shouting at the employee who had started the machine. I tried to defend the employee, but it was impossible to calm Tom's anger. As a result, I ended up making Tom even more upset.
I'm reducing the order count starting tomorrow. Get ready.
Fuming, Tom took his anger out on the other employees and then left for the company. The employee who operated the machine apologized to me. There was no need to apologize. Restarting the production line was the right thing to do. Anyone could see that Tom's behavior was the real problem. However, I needed to confirm whether Tom was really going to reduce the order count. I thought tomorrow would be interesting as I headed home, and the next day, I checked the order count as soon as I arrived at the factory in the morning. I was stunned by the numbers I saw. Tom had actually reduced the order count to less than half. I see. So this is the issue. It felt like everything became clear. A few days later, on my day off, my daughter invited me out for a meal, and we went to a fancy restaurant near our home.
Dad, are you tired?
My daughter, worried about my factory work, asked me. Honestly, it was pretty tough, but working there brought back memories and was somewhat enjoyable. Back when my mother and I were struggling to keep things going, when I first fell in love with my wife and started dating her, the factory held so many memories. My body was screaming in pain, but I didn't want my daughter to worry, so I just told her I was fine.
But well, this is the end of your factory work, right? Today is a celebration for that.
I understood then that the reason my daughter had invited me out was to celebrate. Just as we were having this exchange, someone called out,
Hey, John.
Turning around, I saw Tom standing there. I cursed my luck for running into Tom at a place like this.
You don't belong here, you high school dropout.
Tom sneered at me as he said that. I was amazed at how confident he was about his education.
This place is quite expensive. You need to be more aware.
And then, he suddenly burst out laughing. Other customers were looking at him, wondering what was going on. My daughter and I were also confused.
Oh, I see. You couldn't calculate the price because you're a high school dropout?
He laughed even louder. Despite other customers being present, Tom didn't seem to care at all. I thought I was used to his usual behavior, but this time, it felt like he had tainted the spot my daughter had reserved for us, and I was furious. I vowed to myself that it was time to teach him a lesson. It was then that my daughter said,
I've had it. I've reached my limit.
with an angry expression, she stood in front of Tom. Surprised, Tom said,
Is this John's daughter? I feel sorry for you, having a father with such low education.
pretending to sympathize with her. My daughter had reached her breaking point.
A rude brat like you should be fired immediately.
She spat at Tom. Tom looked confused, not understanding what she had said. My daughter continued.
Are you really that proud of your education?
Tom, clearly provoked, turned red with anger.
I graduated from an elite university and work for a major company.
My daughter had a look on her face that said, so what? I thought it was impressive how Tom could call himself elite.
So, which university did you graduate from?
Tom asked my daughter. I knew he would ask that question. Tom should never have asked that question. Asking that question would undoubtedly lead to his downfall. My daughter quickly responded.
CJBS. So what?
She answered impatiently, but Tom didn't seem to understand. I thought it would be better for him not to ask further. Noticing Tom's confusion, my daughter rephrased.
Cambridge Judge Business School. The graduate school of the University of Cambridge. Does that make sense?
Yes, my daughter had studied abroad in the UK and graduated at the top of her class from the business school of the University of Cambridge. She returned with a solid foundation in business and management.
Don't make me laugh. What's an elite university? And you're bragging about it yourself?
My daughter looked completely exasperated. Tom's face was changing colors rapidly. He couldn't win against my daughter in terms of education. Still, Tom made a futile attempt to resist.
No way. Don't think you can get away with such lies.
As I tried to intervene, my daughter stopped me. With a sigh, she started speaking in German. Since I can't speak German, I had no idea what she was saying. Tom likely felt the same way. He stood there, stunned, as my daughter rattled off in German.
Do you understand now?
She finished in English. Tom seemed at a loss for words. My daughter wasn't simply angry about Tom bragging about his education. She knew how hard I had worked to get to my current position, despite only having a high school education. She had seen my struggles firsthand and couldn't tolerate anyone looking down on me. Tom, having been berated in German and then in English, was visibly shaken.
Who do you think you're talking down to? Know your place.
Tom didn't seem able to grasp what was being said. Of course not. If he understood, he wouldn't have behaved the way he did.
What do you mean?
My daughter, thoroughly irritated, delivered her final blow.
Come to the president's office as soon as you get to work tomorrow. You'll understand then.
Completely defeated, Tom left the restaurant with his shoulders slumped. I didn't have to say a word. My daughter handled everything. After that, we apologized to the other customers and left the restaurant. The next day, I returned to the company after a long time. When I entered the president's office, my daughter was already there.
Well, isn't it better here than at the factory?
My daughter said, but the factory has its own charm. Just as she said that, there was a knock on the door of the president's office. The secretary informed us that Tom had arrived. I told the secretary to let him in, and Tom entered.
Excuse me.
Tom said as he entered, and then froze when he saw my face. He must have been shocked to see the person he looked down on as a high school dropout factory worker was actually the president of his company. This company was founded by Kyle. When Kyle retired due to old age, I succeeded him as president. The factory was left to me by my father, and no matter what, I couldn't let it go under. For the past 6 months, I had been investigating the cause of our business slump from the inside. I suspected the issue might be with the employees, so I disguised my position. Tom looked at me and my daughter in the president's office. and finally understood what my daughter had said at the restaurant.
I'm very sorry.
Tom apologized deeply, but my daughter looked at him coldly. She is the executive vice president here.
Do you think an apologize will make everything okay?
Tom began to tremble. My daughter likely had no intention of forgiving him. In a calm voice, she said,
You didn't even know the faces of the president or the executives of your own company. Yet you had the nerve to brag.
Tom kept his head down as my daughter showed no mercy. I then explained to my daughter that Tom was the cause of the factory's poor performance. Her expression changed rapidly.
Unforgivable. Who do you think you are?
My daughter started shaking with anger. Tom, realizing his dire situation, began to grovel.
I'm very sorry.
My daughter's anger did not subside. She directed her rage at the groveling Tom. The factory employees must have suffered from Tom's attitude. He had been manipulating the order quantities based on his whims.
You're definitely fired. Prepare yourself.
Tom, hearing the worst words from my daughter, looked like he was about to cry. Desperately, Tom pleaded with my daughter, but she had no intention of forgiving him. Tom earnestly explained how hard he had worked to get into this company.
Please, at least spare me from being fired.
Tom pleaded with us repeatedly, groveling on the floor. I told the secretary to call the department heads to the president's office immediately. While waiting, Tom stayed crouched, still pleading. The department heads arrived, wondering what was going on, and gathered in the office. Once everyone was present, I began to speak. I've discovered the cause of the factory's poor performance over the past 6 months. The department heads listened intently. I detailed the situation at the factory to everyone, and I've identified that the cause is Tom over there. I then recounted Tom's behavior towards the factory. The department heads began shouting at Tom after hearing my story. I watched for a while and then revealed that the cause wasn't just Tom. I turned to the HR director. How did someone like Tom get hired by our company? Haven't I always said that it's not about academic credentials, but the person? The HR director shrank and apologized. At that moment, the secretary entered with the factory employee who had helped me out when I was in trouble. Frustrated by Tom interrupting my work, he felt guilty, thinking he had caused trouble for the factory. I couldn't ignore him. Tom, you owe him an apology. He was right. You were wrong. For the first time, I raised my voice at Tom. Tom finally broke down and apologized to the factory employee. The employee immediately accepted Tom's apology. I thanked the factory employee for his help that day and told him not to blame himself, as his actions were correct. He thanked me and left the president's office. Watching him leave, I considered what to do with Tom. The HR director approached me with a suggestion. He asked to be entrusted with Tom's fate. I hesitated, but ultimately agreed. The HR director led the exhausted Tom out of the office. The department heads followed suit. Now, only my daughter and I remained in the office. My daughter said to me,
I was going to fire him. I was just trying to protect the HR director's reputation.
I calmed my disgruntled daughter. Later, the HR director reported back. Tom had been removed from all his positions and would start with cleaning toilets. His salary was cut in half, and he would only be cleaning from morning till night. This move would also save the company the cost of hiring a cleaning service. Of course, that includes the toilets at the factory. After cleaning, he has to report to the department head, who then checks the cleanliness, a thorough process. I agreed with the HR director's decision. I shared the HR director's report with my daughter.
He should be grateful he wasn't fired.
It would be interesting to see how long the proud Tom could endure this. Since then, reports came in that Tom was diligently cleaning the toilets. I thought he might not be able to endure it and would quit. But so far, he seems to be trying hard. According to other employees, he has become much quieter, almost like a different person. I secretly hoped that Tom would change for the better. After that, the factory's performance began to improve, which was a relief. My daughter acknowledged that my time at the factory helped us quickly identify the cause of the poor performance and address it, minimizing the losses. But she told me,
Don't ever go back to working at the factory again.
She firmly warned me. While I appreciated her concern for my health, I was determined to protect that factory. Because of that factory, I met my wife and was blessed with my daughter. A few days later, my daughter and I visited my wife's grave. I reported to my wife that we were doing well. I vowed to work hard so that when I eventually joined her in heaven, I could proudly share our accomplishments with her.